Echols, and today is Saturday, March 21st in the year of 2020, and it is about 2 p.m. in the afternoon, I think. Yeah, 2 p.m. And I have not done this in a while. I have not been able to record a podcast. I have not even thought about the podcast. I haven't been conducting any interviews, talking to people, getting guests, and all that. And that's completely on me. That's my fault. The end of this year's season got kind of busy, along with the beginning of the second semester, which it got the best of me. So I'm glad I am back home working on the podcast, and I'm glad to just be back home and being able to do this, because I love doing this. I love getting on here. I want to have more guests on. I want to get more people involved with this podcast because it's very fun. I'm going to jump right in. I have a few things to talk about today. The first thing that I would like to address here today is the tragic passing of Kobe Bryant. Just want to say rest in peace to Kobe Bryant and the other people who were involved in that terrible, tragic crash that happened in late January. Kobe was one of the greatest players in the history of the game. He's one of the most historic figures in American sports history, and international sports history as well. And he's just a legend, a legend. He was a great father. He was a great ambassador for the game of basketball. He was a great ambassador for the brand Nike. And those are two things that I just want to focus on when it comes to Kobe Bryant and remembering his legacy. And if you know me, you know two things I love in the world. Two of the top 5 things I love in this world are the brand Nike and the game of basketball. And Kobe Bryant definitely had a direct impact on both of those things. He was able to help make Nike into a more global brand, especially in the basketball department when he left Adidas and came to Nike back in the early 2000s, I want to say. And he was able to create one of the greatest shoe lines ever. In my opinion, it is the greatest signature sneaker line in all of sneaker history. I know Michael Jordan has his own brand and he's become a subset of Nike, but in my honest opinion, I think Kobe Bryant's shoes were better than his. And I own a few pairs of Kobe's. I love playing in them. They're always the lightest, most comfortable sneakers. And he did so much in terms of helping Nike grow into the powerhouse that it is today, especially basketball wise. He had the sneakers, his clothing, and then the commercials that he used to shoot. Sometimes with LeBron James. If you all remember the puppet commercials that him and LeBron used to do, those were so great to watch, and we'll have those to remember him by, and we'll have to remember his acting that he did in some old Nike commercials, especially the historic one with Kanye West, where he asked Kanye if he was a different animal and the same beast. And I always thought that was one of the coolest things, is Kobe Bryant could say stuff and people would just listen. You know, it didn't matter what it was. It didn't matter what he was talking about, what he was doing, but people would listen to him because they trusted him. They thought he had insight to everything in life. He probably had something to say about, and he was very knowledgeable and very wise. So I just want to say that. And the game of basketball, he's done a lot for. He's one of the guys to really come out of high school and be a star. He wasn't a star at first, and he worked. His work ethic in the game of basketball has really lived on, and the Mamba mentality, and cherish some of the insights he gives into not only his career, but his approach to the game, his approach to life, his mentality. And we miss him a lot, in the basketball community. I know every basketball fan has some type of Kobe Bryant story or some type of Kobe Bryant tribute or in one way or another. I didn't get to see his first 3 championships. I was too young, but I got to see him win in 2009 and 2010, and when he took down Dwight Howard in the 2010 finals. That was pretty cool. And then after losing to the Celtics the year before, he comes back and beats them in the next year, and I thought that was great too, him and Pau Gasol. But I was really liking the man he was becoming in terms of helping the women's game grow. He went and supported a lot of women's basketball games. He went and to a lot of UConn women's basketball games with his daughter, Gianna, who also passed away. And I just want to say rest in peace to her as well. And it's tragic to see someone so young pass away. And when you think about Kobe, you think he'd lived a full life while she was just getting hers. Hers was just getting started. So it's always a terrible tragedy. My heart is with anyone who's been affected by their death and the rest of the people who tragically passed away. We look at his legacy as something that is going to help shape our country and our community and the sport and the game forever. So rest in peace to Kobe Bryant. And so the next thing is obviously that I wanted to talk about the coronavirus. Another sad thing to address, but obviously it needs to be addressed. So about a week and a couple of days ago, Rudy Gobert of the Utah Jazz tested positive for the coronavirus. And because of that, Commissioner Adam Silver decided to put the league on hold. He decided to suspend the league. So no more NBA for now, the time being. And that just started a chain of events that we could have never seen. College basketball, after the Ivy League decided to cancel its conference tournament, every other conference in the country decided to cancel their conference tournament. The NCAA men's tournament, or the men's and women's NCAA tournaments, were going to be held without fans at first. They had decided, and then they decided after that the NCAA tournament should also be canceled. So I just want to say my heart goes out to any college basketball player whose career ended because of these terrible circumstances and this awful virus. And it's out of their control. It's out of everyone else's control. I know a lot of people would say it would have been much better losing their last game, let alone winning their last game, which few people can do in terms of winning a championship at the end of their college career. But this is definitely going to hurt a lot more than not being able to get out there and compete for one more time. And my heart goes out to them, and I hope that, I wish everyone whose career ended because of this the best of luck in the future. And I know basketball is something that can take a lot away from us, but it provides us with so much. It gives us a passion. It gives us a reason to. A lot of us, in some ways, it gives us a reason to live, a reason to work, a reason to just go hard and try our best in anything that we work in. And we look to basketball as like a release from the difficulties that we face each and every day in life. So I can't imagine what it's like to have that just taken away, coronavirus, and just not being able to play again. But we'll all still be able to lace them up, once this social distancing ends. And I would also like to mention the high schoolers whose career ended. And a lot of these high schoolers, especially I remember growing up, high school state tournament, that's where you make a name for yourself. That's where college coaches come and they're able to come check you out, and that's where you make a name. If you play well in a high school state tournament, that could be the difference between getting offers and interest from 5 or 6 schools to getting offers and interest from maybe 20 to 30 schools. You never know. So that's also a tough thing that they're having to go through. My heart goes out to them as well. to the high schoolers and the college athletes, and then obviously the professionals who are probably going to start back up in a couple months with no fans. I don't know if the NBA can play with no fans. The NBA has always been like a fan-driven league. It's always been like a hype league, like where people are able to, talk about it, and it's always in the news. And NBA players are just so present and so fit, like they're physical figures, Whereas NFL players, they have the helmet on, they have the pads on. You can't really associate their look on the field with their look off the field. But when it comes to NBA, they look the same. They look the same when they're on the court, and they look the same when they're walking by you in Target. So I think the fact that NBA players are so present and so they're physically out there, I think that's gonna be difficult. That's gonna be tough thing for NBA players and fans and staffs to really deal with, is the fact that they won't be able to get together, because obviously right now, America as a country, we are not able to meet in groups. Group meetings are just off limits. You can't do that. President Trump said no more than 10 people can meet at a time. I originally thought it was like 50 or 60 or something like that. And it's crazy. It's really crazy. I can't believe that the NBA is probably going to start up this summer again with no fans. So that's gonna be an interesting thing to watch. I'm interested by this NBA season, honestly, and that's what I wanted to get on here and talk about. I just wanted to talk about the NBA season and what it has been so far. And so far for me, being a Philadelphia 76ers fan, I've been very disappointed. I'm not going to point out any players like this player needs to play better, this player we had better expectations for, but it's just been a disappointing season. The Sixers are currently sitting at 39-26. They are the 6th seed in the Eastern Conference, when a lot of people pegged them to take down the Bucks for conference supremacy. And without Kawhi or LeBron James in this year's Eastern Conference, people thought it was wide open. The Bucks the Bucks have the best record in the NBA, so the Bucks they're knocking on the door. They have the personnel, they have the superstar, they have the organization for it, and I think they're going to have a great end to their season and hopefully make a strong playoff run for them. My Sixers, we'll see what happens once we get to the playoffs. Right now, it's at the 6th seed. They're currently tied for 5th with the Pacers right now, but if they end up in the 6th, the 3 seed is Boston, and Boston has been a tough matchup for Philly, especially the past couple of years, in the playoffs, especially 2 years ago when Boston had their guys who were hurt, Gordon Hayward and Kyrie Irving, yet they still handily beat the Sixers with Simmons and Embiid both healthy. They lost 4-1 in that series, and it was just tough. It was a tough time for me to really. It's a tough time for me right now to pick them to come out of the East. So right now I'm looking at teams like not obviously the Bucks, but the Raptors are having a great year. They're still at the top of the conference despite losing Kawhi Leonard and Danny Green to free agency. Both going to the Los Angeles teams, who are also at the top of the Western Conference. But without those guys, I thought that the Raptors would be in the 6th seed. They'd be like a 6, 7 seed. But Pascal Siakam has been great. He was voted an all-star starter. Kyle Lowry has had a decent year. But Fred VanVleet, he's been very impressive. And the Raptors are here. They are here, and they aren't going anywhere. Nick Nurse is a great defensive mind. He's a great coach. They have a great organization. They have great people around their organization. So I can see the Raptors going very far in this year's NBA playoffs, as well as Miami Heat. The Miami Heat have been arguably the most surprising team in the NBA this year, with Jimmy Butler leaving Philly to go down south and take his talents to South Beach and join the Heat, and Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra and all those boys. It was tough. It was tough being a Sixers fan to see him do that, but he wanted to be happy. He wanted to be the alpha, and that wasn't exactly going to happen in Philadelphia because we have Joel Embiid in Philadelphia, Ben Simmons, Tobias Harris. It's kind of hard to be the guy on a team like that who has talented guys who have proven themselves in the past. So it was tough to see him go down there, but he's been playing well. Duncan Robinson has come on. Kendrick Nunn, Tyler Hero, Bam Adebayo. Like he have young guys who can play, and Bam being an All-Star this year, and that was huge for him because I know coming into Kentucky, he had high expectations. Didn't exactly have the year at Kentucky that he wanted to, and then getting drafted, didn't have the first year in the NBA that he wanted to. But now he seems to be on track to being one of the best big men in the league, and he certainly has proven that this season. So today I'm just going to talk about the three players that I think have been who I love to watch, who I've loved watching this whole entire season. I'm just going to give a little stats and talk about them a little bit. We have Trae Young being the number one player who I have enjoyed watching this season, despite his team's record. And the Hawks are not very good at all. But the Hawks are also extremely young, with their nucleus being in Young, John Collins, DeAndre Hunter, Cam Reddish, Kevin Huerter. They're all young. They're all in their first or second or third. Yeah, John Collins is in his third year in the NBA. And so, they're all young. They're going to take some time for them to grow. It's going to take some time for them to mesh and get better. And I know that they have a bright future ahead of them. I love DeAndre Hunter. I love watching Virginia men's basketball, and he was definitely the biggest reason why they've had arguably the biggest reason why they've had their success in the past two seasons. And it was great to see him go so high in the draft, especially because I knew someone like him deserved it. And he's been great this season. So shout out to DeAndre Hunter. Cam Reddish is starting to prove people wrong. He's starting to really turn into a real player, and he can score with the best of them. We look at him and we see this tall guy who can play the guard position. You look at him, you think he's like a wing forward, but no, Cam Reddish has a lot of guard skills. He is a great shooter, ball handler, and he can guard on the perimeter very well also. So yeah, Cam Reddish is going to come into his own. And then Kevin Huerter, just being the knockdown shooter he is. He has a point guard background, so he's very smart. He has a high basketball IQ. And then Trae Young, of course, being the leader and the best player on this team. He was voted an all-star starter for this season, and that was huge, especially considering someone like Trae Young just doesn't really get that type of recognition that I think he deserves all the time because he's small. People think he's just out there. He's trying to be like Steph Curry. He's trying too hard and all that stuff. But I think he's just a player. He has talent. He's so talented. And when I say he's talented, I mean like he has every skill offensively you can think of. He's a great shooter off of this set shot, like a standstill knockdown shot. He can shoot a pull up. He can get in the lane and finish at the rim, which is probably something that he's going to continue to improve at. And he's an elite passer, a great passer, great ball handler, and he definitely can handle it with the best of the players in the NBA and pass with the best of the players in the NBA. Right now, he's currently averaging, through 60 games, he's averaging 29.6 points, 9.3 assists, and 4.3 rebounds on 43.7% shooting. Probably wants to get that up, but as a high volume shooter, that's not terrible. He's shooting 36% from three. Also, probably something you want to get up, but as a high volume shooter, you'll take it. And he's shooting 86% from the free throw line, which is perfect. Like, it doesn't get much better than that. And I think he has a bright future ahead of him. I really enjoy watching Trae Young, and I hope that him and the Hawks can continue to improve, continue to get better each and every day. And I can't wait to see them in the playoffs in a couple of years. So I'm excited for that. I'm excited to continue to watch that team grow. But on to my next player, who has been the best player who I loved watching. He is also the best player in the history of the NBA, Mr. LeBron James. And LeBron is in his second year in Los Angeles, and I think that he's having arguably one of the best seasons of his career. And it's hard because every single year he makes you want to say that. He makes you want to do that because he's just that elite every single year. He brings it every single year. It's hard. Like, if you've ever played like a high school or a college season, you know how long and grueling that can be. Imagine doing that for, is it year 17 for LeBron? It's year 17, being 35 years old in the NBA, in an 82-game season, plus the playoff games and the runs that he's been on, and the 9 NBA Finals runs he's been on. I find it amazing, you know. And he missed the playoffs last year. Obviously, had the groin injury on Christmas Day, the infamous groin injury on Christmas Day, while the Lakers were a top 4 seed in the Western Conference, which people didn't expect them to be. And he did that, and he went through that, and now he's back, and he's having arguably the best season of his career. He sort of switched to playing the point guard position this year for this year's Lakers, as they added Anthony Davis, Danny Green, a lot of really good players they've added to this year's roster. So it's been great to watch him. He's currently averaging 25 points, 25.7 points a game, 7.9 rebounds a game, and 10.6 assists a game for LeBron James. And he's just been that type of dude. He's that guy. He's the best player in the history of the NBA. I would love for someone to come on here and argue that with me. I'm willing to talk about it. I'm willing to, have this conversation. But in my opinion, he is the best player to ever play the game of basketball. He's the best. And so I want to get into my third player who I really enjoyed watching this year, and that is Mr. Ben Simmons of my Philadelphia 76ers. Ben Simmons, he's been the Sixers point guard he's going on his third year playing after being selected number 1 in the 2016 draft. He was Rookie of the Year. It was controversial because everyone wasn't sure if he was a rookie. He's obviously a rookie. He didn't play any games the year before, so he's a rookie. And he's electric. I love watching Ben Simmons, especially when he gets out in the open floor. And then what people didn't know about him is that not only is he an all-around offensive player, with the exception of shooting, okay, he is an all-around offensive player, and I'll get into that in a second. But he is arguably the best defender in the NBA. He's currently leading the league in steals. He's the tallest person to do that ever. The tallest ever to lead the league in steals. He guards the other team's point guard or best player. He can guard the other team's best player. He can legitimately guard the point guard position through the center position, and it is very impressive. He keeps them in front, uses long arms, long legs to stay in front, and wreak havoc, in that 76ers defense that Brett Brown has helped mold, along with Joel Embiid, Al Horford, and Matisse Thybulle, and Josh Richardson, and all those guys who can just really clamp down on defense and give you a solid effort out there. And I've just really enjoyed watching Ben Simmons play this year. He's currently averaging 16.7 points, 7.8 rebounds, and 8.2 assists on 58.5% field goal shooting, 33.3% from 3, and 62.7% from the free throw line. That's probably something he's going to have to improve on, and this is the 62.7% from the free throw line, because he's going to get fouled a lot. He's a transition guy. He likes to get to the rim, he likes to attack the basket, and so he's got to be better from the free throw line. But I think his numbers so far this year have been great. He's doing exactly what we want out of our star players in Philadelphia, and I'm just hoping that he can pull it together along with the rest of the guys in this playoff run coming up, hopefully sometime this summer. But we'll see about that. and I'm just happy that he's able to showcase his talents, because if you think about it, 2 years ago, people were writing him off. They were saying, "Oh, he's not gonna really be anything in the NBA. He's just gonna be another player who's succumbed to just sitting out his rookie year after getting drafted by the Sixers." And what people didn't really know what he's gonna be. He's gonna be a small forward. He's gonna be a power forward. And he came in and he played point guard, and people were like, "What?" And they realized that this guy can actually play the point guard position, and he plays it very well. So I'm very proud of him, and especially when it comes to shooting 3-pointers. He shot 6 this year. He's made 2. I'm very proud that he's been able to make at least make 2 threes this season. It's crazy that it took him this long to finally, just shoot threes in games, but he just hasn't. It's just not a part of his game, and he's not going to change that just because people say he should, and you haven't really seen it affect the team's success. You can argue that it's affected the team's success in the playoffs, but we can also argue that he's very young, and he's in his 3rd year in the NBA, and he's also like 23, 24 years old. So it's going to take him a little while to get adjusted to how the NBA playoffs are played, and the fact that they took the NBA champions to Game 7 of last year's Eastern Conference semifinals, it really proves they gave the best fight to the eventual NBA champions. So it was Game 7, and it was a buzzer-beating shot, and I wish the Sixers were able to win that, because who knows what would have happened had they gone up against the Bucks in the Eastern Conference Finals, and then probably the Warriors or the Rockets or someone, or who knows what happens in that scenario. And would have been great to see, but I guess we'll find out this summer, and if and when NBA basketball returns, and we'll see what happens. So now that I've talked about NBA basketball and the guys who I've liked the most, I just wanted to talk about for a second this book that I've been reading. I want to give a shout out to John Wilcom. He is a author. He is a former walk-on for the Marquette men's basketball team, and he wrote this book. It's called Walk-On Warrior. It's a great book. It details a first-person sort of view as to what it's like to be a walk-on, especially at the Division I level. It's very hard. It's grueling. It's playing on scout team. It's a difficult thing. So he really just sums it up for anyone who's possibly interested, and I think that anyone who's interested in being a walk-on at the Division I, Division II level should definitely give this book a read. It's called Walk-On Warrior, written by John Wilcom, and it's crazy how this happened. And I read this book. My mom read the book. She gave it to me for Christmas this year, and I read the book, and I followed him on Twitter, and a few DMs later, I sent him the book, and because I wanted to get it signed, and he returned it a couple weeks ago. I actually received it on my birthday, so it was probably my best birthday present. So I just want to thank him for sending in this book and writing such a heartfelt note to me in the inside, and I really appreciate it. And it's great. It's inspiring, his story. It's inspiring any person who is able to make it to that level and to play. And it's tough. It's a rough life that you have to live, but it's so worth it in the end. It's so worth it. So shout out to him. And I think that does it for today on the Echols Unlimited Podcast. I'll be back on here soon to talk more basketball, talk more life. We'll see if I can get any guests right now, but currently with the coronavirus going on, it's kind of difficult to schedule people to come in and to talk. And so hopefully once this whole thing ends, I'll be able to get a guest on here, and we'll be able to talk, and I'll be able to conduct more interviews, because that's what I love the most about doing this podcast. I just love having people on. I love talking interviews and having that sort of interaction. But Thank you for watching. I will be back soon with another podcast.